Farm Small, Farm Smart Daily is part of the Modern Grower Podcast Network. Check out some of our other shows like Carrot Cash Flow, the Growing Microgreens Podcast, and Farm Small, Farm Smart. Learn more about the shows using the link below. Yeah, can you define fertilizing appropriately? I think fertilizer, even if it's organic, that term in the movement has gotten a bad association with it because I think people just think of
Yep. Okay.
runoff, all that type of thing. So what is
Yeah.
appropriate fertilization?
Appropriate is knowing how much your soil can retain and knowing how much your plants require. The term fertilizer, people who are organic growers and using compost saying, I don't use fertilizer. Sorry, yes, you do. Compost is a fertilizer. Anything that supplies nutrition to a plant that you have applied is a fertilizer. Whether it's made in a factory or you make it in a pile of organic detritus at home, it's still a fertilizer. I was on this discussion group in South Dakota where they were growing crops, and this guy who was actually a professor at one of the universities there who was heading it said, we didn't use any fertilizer. And so I said to him, so what did you use? The crop looks really good. And he said, we just used 3 ton an acre of chicken litter. I said, hey, that's fertilizer. He said, technically, yeah, but it's not bag fertilizer. I said, it doesn't matter. It's fertilizer. You can't say we did not use fertilizer. That's nonsense. And it's also misleading people. Anything you apply, mulch is fertilizer because you're feeding microbes and the microbes are releasing nutrient. You've applied that nutrient in an organic detritus for the system to access and release into the soil. If you're going to say you use no fertilizer, then you're applying absolutely nothing to your land. Then you're not applying fertilizer.
What about soil testing? There's many different soil test methods out there. Is there one you recommend?
The one I like best is Melic 3 because I think it's least affected by soil pH. I can use a test from any lab. The most important thing is that you test, it's a broad spectrum test. You test all the minerals. And people send me tests and all I've done is test NPK and S, and I say wasting my time because I can't tell you what to do from that. You're not looking at micronutrients. Like probably the single most important fertilizer to apply if you were cash strapped, say you were a grazier, you're cash strapped, boron is a key fertilizer. Boron is the start of the biological process. You don't feed soil microbes through root exudation if your plant doesn't have boron. Boron's required for the plant to transfer carbohydrate from the leaf to the roots and out into the soil. You can have all of the other nutrients up to speed and not have boron, and you're not going to get a big crop because the plant can't feed the microbes. So if you're cash strapped, put some boron on, and that will give you the biggest bang for your buck. So we need to understand this. Locally, there was a pasture trial done, or fertilizer trial on a dairy farm, and they did soil testing and they balanced, not balanced to my standard, but to the normal or average agronomist. They put on what was needed: phosphorus, bit of potassium, bit of sulfur, and that they thought was deficient. They put it on a paddock on this dairy farm that was being used for silage production. On half the farm, on half of that paddock, they also added boron. 210 grams a hectare is all they used. The difference in production on the two halves was where they put the boron was 300% higher yield than where they didn't. That's how significant boron is. So most people don't understand the necessity to get boron right.
So I'm assuming you're not a fan of the all-purpose fertilizer mixes that are blends. You're more apply single nutrient, single mineral fertilizers to the correct dosage.
The single mineral fertilizers are the easiest for management because you can really balance your soil. There's plenty of organic forms of boron available. People who are organic growers just put on some Organibor. That's the easiest to use, and it's the most difficult to overdo. You have to be careful with using boron. You've got to know what you're doing too, because if base saturation of calcium is below 50%, then boron can become toxic. So you've got to know that you've got enough calcium to start with. And if you're using a quick release boron, you should never use more than 1 kilogram per hectare in any one application. You can do it perhaps 2 or 3 times a year. So because boron's something that's required in such a small amount, it's really easy to overdose. You can't just go and throw some boron on. But you can if you've got a bit of self-control and you only put very small amounts on.
So, which is not the human tendency, right?
It's not. Most of us think more is better. And you've probably heard the term moron as the conventional farmer, the moron farmer who puts more on all the time. And it's always linked to conventional farmers using synthetic fertilizer. My experience is the true moron farmers are actually the organic farmers, because they think when something not right, they'll put more compost on, more manure on, and they make a real problem. So the conventional farmers are typically, they seek advice and they typically follow it. And I really don't know why. I guess I do know why that saying came about. And that is because when you're using synthetic fertilizers, if you don't properly balance your soil, then you're going to have problems. And you're quite likely going to need more each year. But if you properly balance it, you should be getting an increase in soil carbon. And the more that increases, the less fertilizer you need, because the carbon holds lots of nutrients, just like biochar. If you make biochar and you charge it with nutrients using whatever, liquid fish is great to soak biochar in, or charcoal, and put it into the soil. The more of that you put on, the more you supply, not just supplying nutrients, you're supplying housing for microbes, because it's so porous. The microbes get inside. The plant roots can't get in there. They can only get around the edge. If it's very fine fungi can get in there, but you've got a microbe factory producing nutrients, supplying it to the plant, and that's why the terra pretas remain fertile for thousands of years, because they've actually created a condominium for the microbes to live in. And so we've got to have that context in our head when we're improving soil fertility. You've got to be supporting the microbial biomass in there when you're doing it. So they require a balanced nutrition in order to flourish, and they require accommodation.
Hey there, guess what? If you're a farmer, you can have your low tunnels paid for by the NRCS. They have this cool new program where farmers can get $4 to $5 for each square foot to help with a Quick Hoops low tunnel system, frames and fabric included. It's like free money to help you grow more stuff on your farm. Want to learn more about Quick Hoops and the NRCS program? Click on the link below.